The devastating news of the death of Nikki Allen, a 7-year-old English girl, shocked the people of Tyne and Wear, Sunderland, England, on October 7, 1992. After her body was discovered in the basement of an old desolate building, the police were called right away to the scene. She had suffered a brick to the head as well as 37 stab wounds. Who could have committed this evil act on a once cheerful little girl? And what was the reason for such wicked deed? Hello and welcome back to Mystery Detective, where we tell mysterious stories of solved and unsolved cases around the world. Northeastern England's Tyne and Wear is a metropolitan county with a lengthy history. One of its major cities, Sunderland, is a fusion of tradition and modernity. Living in Sunderland offers access to both leisure areas, such as parks and beaches, and historical sites that provide insight into the city's past. The locals are renowned for their friendliness and sense of belonging. The maritime heritage of Tyne and Wear is a significant characteristic, and the River Tyne was crucial to its growth. Despite the region's generally low crime rate, the tragic death of Nikki Allen in 1992 has left a permanent mark on its past. Nikki Allen, the adored daughter of Sharon Henderson and David Allen, was born on August 30, 1985, in Sunderland, northeastern England. She grew up with 3 sisters in the Weargarth apartment complex, which offered a beautiful view of Sunderland's East End ports. Those who knew Nikki well recall her as a lively and spirited young girl. Nikki enjoyed playing with her friends and cherished her toys, just like any other 7-year-old. Cheese and onion crisps was her favorite, and it was a regular snack for her daily school lunch. The fact that Nikki's maternal grandparents resided in the same building demonstrated how close-knit her family was. Her grandparents were crucial to the upbringing of the kids, frequently helping Sharon with childcare. It was clear that Sharon was a committed mother. The welfare of her children came first to her. Nikki and her family were living a simple, happy life, but they had no idea that everything was about to change for the worse. Nikki Allen's routine appeared to be typical on the fateful day of October 7, 1992. She spent the evening playing with Stacy, her older sister and cousin. As evening sets in, Nikki's mother, Sharon, made the decision to go outside briefly. She promised her daughters to be back in 5 minutes. The place she was going was not far. She was making her way to the apartment shared by her father and stepmother, which was in the same estate. On getting there, it didn't take long before Nikki and her cousin's playful laughter could be heard echoing down the hallway behind Sharon. "Mom, can we go to the park tomorrow?" The innocent question came from Nikki. Sharon gently told Nikki to go home and meet her sisters after noticing the excitement in her daughter's voice. She then assured her that she would join shortly. By the time Sharon arrived, the mood in the Allen family home had changed from one of merriment to obvious apprehensiveness. Stacy's voice, which was tinged with worry, broke the stillness. "Mom, Nikki didn't come home," she said. Fear took hold. In the hallways, Sharon persistently called Nikki's name. Every shout she made was filled with anxiety, but Nikki was nowhere to be seen. Nikki Allen appeared to have disappeared out of thin air in what seemed like a matter of seconds. Only 150 yards separated Nikki's house from her grandparents' apartment, where she was last seen. The shortness of this distance only added to the intrigue surrounding her abrupt disappearance. The police were notified of her disappearance, and they showed up within an hour. Even though it was economically underdeveloped and frequently disregarded, Sunderland's East End was home to a tight-knit neighborhood. Here, neighbors were more like an extended family who knew each other's daily routines. The rapidly spreading news of Nikki's disappearance caused the locals to come together as a matter of urgency. A search team made up of more than 100 police officers and community volunteers was quickly put together. Finding Nikki was their only task. There was a thorough search. The search team combed through recreational areas, industrial buildings, alleyways, and even the waterfront where the river curved through the city. The search was made more terrifying by the fact that this river was notorious for its deceptive depth and perilous undercurrents. The following morning, a terrifying discovery was made as dawn broke. The center of this tragic story would be the long-abandoned and dilapidated Quayside Exchange building. The search team, led by Nikki's aunt, noticed a pair of shoes outside the building. As they entered, there was a sense of dread in the air. However, what they saw inside would forever haunt them. Inside, Nikki's lifeless body lay with the horrifying signs of a terrible crime. She had endured a vicious attack with a brick and more than 37 stab wounds. The community was shocked by the discovery. An area where people knew one another and where kids could play unrestrained was now surrounded by a foreboding cloud of sorrow and anxiety. The search for Nikki's killer got underway, but the perplexing question persisted. Who could carry out such a heinous deed against a young, defenseless life? Following the tragic discovery of Nikki Allen, the police launched a thorough investigation. Interviewing the locals was their first course of action. This was done in an effort to piece together Nikki's final hours before she disappeared. The more they examined the accounts, the more discrepancies they found, especially when it came to the moment Nikki left her grandparents' apartment. While some said it was 7:30 p.m., others thought it was more like 9:30 p.m., some even suggesting later times. However, the majority of testimonies all agreed that Nikki left about 10 minutes before her mother. Numerous witnesses claimed to have seen Nikki near the Boarhead pub, which was located directly across from her home, around 10 p.m. She was said to have been engaging in the British custom of asking a guy for a penny on bonfire night. Unsettlingly, a different witness claimed to have heard what appeared to be a young girl's scream coming from the direction of the Quayside Exchange building. In a reconstruction shown on BBC Crime Watch, a happy Nikki can be seen skipping past the bar. The video appeared to show her walking alone toward the dock, but she eventually came across a man. Nikki was seen skipping gleefully behind this man who was wearing a crisp white shirt as they crossed the street. The police were able to find CCTV video that appeared to support these eyewitness accounts. Despite the not-so-great video quality, it provided a chilling glimpse of Nikki's final moments before her untimely passing. One name kept coming up as the locals were being interviewed: the Quayside Exchange building, where Nikki's life was tragically cut short, was frequently graced by this person, who was known locally as the Weirdo. 1 week later, following up on this tip, the police took an important step by apprehending 24-year-old George Heron in connection with the murder of Nikki Allen. The neighborhood waited impatiently, hoping that soon, justice would be served for the young girl whose life was taken far too soon. The following years, in 1993, the investigation spotlight focused on George Heron, a young man who lived close to the Allen home. George Heron's involvement appeared to be supported by a number of pieces of evidence. In his living space, a knife matching the wounds on Nikki was found. Blood was found on his clothes and shoes as well. Heron's sister gave a puzzling account to the police, which increased the suspicion. She recalled Heron spending an unusually long time in the bathroom the night of the murder, likely washing himself and his clothes. He had never acted in this manner before. Heron vehemently denied any involvement despite the mounting evidence against him. He insisted that he hadn't left the house the night Nikki was killed. 4 witnesses who saw a man who looked like Heron in 2 neighborhood pubs, the Boar's Head and the Clarendon, refuted this claim. It's interesting that he was seen buying Nikki's favorite snack, cheese and onion crisps. The police speculated that Heron may have lured Nikki inside the abandoned building using her favorite snacks. Heron's defenses appeared to give way after 3 days of difficult interrogation, which caused him to admit to the crime. It's important to note that he had vehemently denied the accusations 120 times before he finally admitted to the crime. Even though it was circumstantial, the evidence seemed solid, and the police were optimistic about getting a conviction. His trial took place in the Leeds Crown Court, where he was accused of killing Nikki Allen. But things changed in an unexpected way. Heron's recorded confession was rejected by the judge, who cited overbearing police methods as the cause. Heron was cleared of all charges relating to the murder of Nikki Allen. Heron was given a new identity after the trial and relocated from Sunderland for his safety. In an unexpected turn of events, Sharon Henderson, Nikki's mother, brought a civil lawsuit against Heron in 1994. She charged him with killing a child by abusing her. Henderson won her case, and the judge ordered Heron to pay her more than £7,000 in damages. The ordered sum, however, remained unpaid because Heron's whereabouts was elusive. Nikki Allen's pursuit of justice was still met with more questions than solutions. Years after the tragic death of Nikki Allen, the pursuit of justice never abated. A new development occurred in February 2014 when Stephen Grieverson, a convicted serial killer, was detained in connection with the killing of Nikki. He was told, however, that he wouldn't face any further action in the case after a lengthy questioning. 2 years later, in May 2016, optimism started to emerge. Sharon Henderson was approached by a woman whose identity was kept secret to the general public, who claimed to have previously released details about Nikki's murder. This young girl, who was babysitting nearby when Nikki vanished and was only 12 years old at the time of the crime, decided to speak to the police after keeping quiet for so long. Encouraged by this fresh information, Henderson fervently argued for a thorough re-examination of her daughter's murder in September of the same year. She started an online petition, requesting that the Northumbria police investigate the case from the scratch. With a petition, the neighborhood showed its unwavering support, gathering more than 500 signatures in less than a day. The following month, Sharon Henderson contacted Grieverson, pleading with him to share any information he might know about Nikki's passing. This was done in an effort to leave no stone unturned. By April 2017, Henderson had met with the Detective Chief Inspector, Lisa Thieker, and the Chief Constable of the Northumbria Police, Constable Steve Ashman. The two officers reaffirmed their unshakable dedication to seeing that Nikki receives justice. There was a significant development in October 2017. The police declared that they had been successful in obtaining a DNA sample from a male who may be connected to the crime. This new development gave hope for a solution. The investigation then took a clear turn in April 2018. A suspect in connection with the murder of Nikki Allen was taken into custody after Northumbria police conducted a raid on a home in the Stockton neighborhood of Teesside. The person arrested was formally charged with the heinous crime in 2022, 4 years after his arrest. 54 years old David Thomas Boyd was the suspect. David Thomas Boyd was originally born David Thomas Bell on June 1, 1967, in London. As a result of his father's military service, David Thomas Boyd experienced a childhood characterized by constant movement. He had no close relatives when he moved to Sunderland. He may have been more likely to frequently change his identity because of this detachment. He changed his name several times over the years, going by the names Jason Branson, John Eastman, and David Thomas Smith, among others. When David Thomas Boyd was found guilty of disturbing the peace in 1986, a darker side of him became apparent. This conviction was the result of a disturbing incident in which he approached a young girl and asked for a kiss. More disturbing fantasies about young girls were revealed during his subsequent conversations with the probation officer. David Boyd was uncomfortably close to Nikki Allen's family. He shared a floor with Nikki's grandparents at Weir Garth. He was more than just a far-off neighbor. He was closely connected to the family. Nikki's babysitter at the time was his girlfriend, but despite being so close, he continued to have dark tendencies. Boyd was one of those questioned by the police when the news of Nikki's case first surfaced, but he was able to avoid being suspected by providing a false alibi. Boyd frequently changed his name over the years, perhaps feeling the net of capture tightening in on him, or being motivated by guilt. His constant name change was a futile attempt to get away from justice's looming shadow. The trial for David Thomas Boyd began at Newcastle Crown Court on April 20, 2023. The prosecution painted a terrifying picture, alleging that Boyd had lured Nikki Allen, a young girl, to a desolate area close to the River Wear. It was thought that she had taken a blow to the head there, which had caused her to bleed. Nikki was not in distress when the witness saw her. Instead, she was skipping to keep up with the man. As the story went on, the prosecution claimed that Boyd had dragged Nikki inside the abandoned old exchange building. The unexpected event got worse inside. Nikki's skull was broken after being hit with a brick. The bloodshed continued after that. Her chest, heart, and lungs were the targets of numerous stab wounds. According to the post-mortem findings, Nikki was probably knocked out by the initial blow before being stabbed. A witness's chilling testimony accurately identified the time of the crime, recalling a scream on the evening of October 6 around 10 p.m. The evidence at trial showed that David Thomas Boyd, who went by several names, was 25 years old when this evil act was committed. He was charged with having circumstantial but strong evidence against him. DNA from Boyd was discovered on Nikki's clothes. Boyd offered an absurd defense, claiming that Nikki may have been exposed to the DNA from his saliva after he spat from his balcony. He also mentioned that he was familiar with the old exchange building because he had gone there a few days earlier with a young boy for pigeon hunting. Defense attorneys claimed that the evidence was just a collection of unintentional coincidences. Mrs. Justice Christina Lambert emphasized the circumstantial nature of the evidence and emphasized the lack of specific evidence linking Boyd to the crimes. Interestingly, Boyd declined to give a witness statement at the trial. After 2.5 hours of deliberation on May 12, 2023, the jury found Boyd guilty of killing Nikki Allen. The long-awaited decision gave Nikki's family some measure of comfort. Sharon Henderson, Nikki's mother, shared her thoughts with BBC News as she reflected on the agonizing 30-year pursuit of justice. On May 23, 2023, Boyd was given a life sentence with the requirement that he serve at least 29 years before being considered for parole. David Thomas Boyd's first opportunity to achieve freedom would therefore come in August 2049. For those involved, the resolution of the Nikki Allen case caused a flurry of emotions. 57-year-old Sharon Henderson, Nikki's mother, expressed her utter dismay at David Boyd's sentence. She thought the decision was shameful and that Boyd shouldn't ever be eligible for parole. "This is the recurring narrative for families like mine, injustice," Sharon said. Nikki was remembered by Sharon, who was only 25 years old when her daughter was tragically taken from her, as an energetic youngster with a radiant smile. Over the years, Sharon felt the weight of the community's misdirected rage because many people falsely accused her of being a bad mother. They focused their anger on her rather than the real offender. Boyd's actions destroyed Sharon's family, but she persevered in her pursuit of justice for her daughter, displaying incredible fortitude. There were many difficulties along the way, including her own arrest due to her accusations against people she thought were protecting the guilty. At the time of the tragedy, Nikki's father, David Allen, was 28 years old. He said that after that fateful night, his life took a dark turn. He was incredibly hurt and furious with Boyd. "The anguish is undescribable," he said, highlighting the striking contrast between Boyd's existence and Nikki's short life. A surprising turn of events saw George Heron, who was initially charged in the case, receive an apology from Northumbria police. Heron's reaction was a concoction of sorrow, disgust, and rage, especially toward the initial investigators who, in his opinion, had betrayed him. Prosecutor Richard Wright Casey noted that the 1992 investigation was rife with mistakes. The team that reopened the case, however, approached it with fresh eyes and without preconceptions. They meticulously gathered 2,500 documents, recorded 1,200 statements, and obtained DNA samples from over 800 men across the country. The judge praised their extraordinary efforts and emphasized the crucial role DNA evidence played in convicting David Thomas Boyd. What do you think about this case? Share your opinions with us in the comments. Until next time, stay safe and alert for the next mystery to come to light.